Joining me now is Nina Shea, Director of the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute. Nina, first let me get your reaction to the latest news out of China that 2 underground bishops there are stepping aside. In the long run, do you think this will help to actually bring unity to the church?
Well, there isn't unity because the government of China has refused to recognize the 30 underground bishops. So the unity has been on the terms of Beijing. The Pope has recognized their bishops, some of whom, including these 2, have been excommunicated in the past by other popes. But there's been no reciprocity by recognizing 30 Catholic bishops who are thought to be still alive in the underground.
And I know there's a lot of Catholics who still think that the church is giving leniency to China. The Chinese government, though, crackdown isn't just affecting Catholics. It also impacts Protestant churches, really all churches there. We heard about a mass arrest of Christian members of the Early Rain Covenant Church last weekend in China. There was also another one that you were following.
Yes, Samuel Lamb's church has been shut down. He's very well known. His church was one of the very first house churches after the Cultural Revolution to establish itself and be tolerated. There's also the Zion Church in Beijing, which I wrote about, which has been shut down after the pastor was asked to put face identifying cameras on the pulpit trained at the congregation. He refused to do that. It was the largest house church, Protestant house church in China, and all 15 members of that congregation have been arrested, detained, harassed. And the Bob Fu of China Aid, which is based in Midland, Texas, but he is someone who has gotten asylum here from China and is one of the world's experts on the Protestant churches, calculates that there are 100,000 Christian arrests this year in China. That is astronomical. There were about 3,000 last year, to give a comparison. So this is now 100,000 detentions of Christians this year alone.
It is incredible to think about those numbers. Why is it that the Chinese government wants to control the churches so much?
Well, I have a bad feeling that they're trying to eradicate Christ, the Bible, and the church teachings from Christianity, to make it an arm of the Communist Party. And it's a very difficult time for the Catholic Church, for the Protestant Church, for Uyghur Muslims in China. President Xi is consolidating his control over the entire country, and this includes Christianity, the Christian churches, and he has even imposed his own photo, his own picture in the churches, in some of the churches, in place of the crucifix.
You mentioned the Uyghur Muslims. I want to ask you just to explain that a little bit more for people who may not be familiar with, because it's not just Christians, as you say. Uyghur Muslims who are in the western part of the country are reportedly being detained, forced to give up their language and their religion. Tell us a little bit about that group.
Yes, I've spoken to some of their leaders. They're having a very, very rough time. About 1 million of them are detained in detention camps in brainwashing centers, indoctrination centers in Western China. So in the desert, there's a network of camps, of detention camps, where they're holding the Uyghurs, trying to really erase their religion. I've heard of imams who have been forced to drink alcohol. It's against their religion to do that by the government. So the government is trying to really change the nature of religion to both Christians and Muslims, take the content out of it and put their own content into it. It's a very frightening time, probably the worst time since the Cultural Revolution in China.
What do you think the U.S. could do about all this, if anything?
Well, during the Cold War, we came up with something called the Helsinki, we in the West proposed the Helsinki Final Accords to the Soviet Union. And these were 3 baskets of defense, trade, and human rights that we negotiated and got an agreement on with the Soviet Union. And that played a very important role in supporting human rights groups behind the Iron Curtain. We need something like that now. We are already deep into trade talks, into security and defense talks with China. But we haven't been speaking about the religious freedom situation, and we need to. This is a priority. Even in our own national security strategy report of this administration, this is considered a priority for the United States. We need to start talking to them about this.
And in the meantime, I know our viewers will continue to pray for all the churches and people of faith.
Yes.
Nina Shea, Nina Shea, Director for the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute. Thanks so much for your analysis.
Thank you.